I'm the son of an Italian immigrant. My father came to France long before the war. He was a fine cabinet maker. He came to France and worked his life long in cabinet making. He did pass his taste for the trade on to me. I mean for marqueterie and cabinetry. After primary school, I entered a cabinet making and marqueterie workshop. I spent 10 years there, was given full training, a workshop set in the very heart of the furnishing area, Paris, the Faubourg Saint-Antoine. I was highly trained in marqueterie. But at the same time, I was very much attracted by drawing. So I took the course at La Grand-Chaumière Academy for 3 years. I was ever so lucky to be accepted in Zadkine's workshop. I must say I keep such wonderful memories from that time. I wasn't all that much influenced by him, but well, that was such a remarkable man. At the end of my apprenticeship, which lasted nearly 10 years, for it's such a demanding and difficult craft, I set up a business in modern furniture making and designing. Actually, the company made furniture for some 70 French embassies and consulates over the world. I did some teaching, thanks to ADAC and the Town Council of Paris. I opened a course in marqueterie, or rather an introduction course. I ran it for 6 years. So what is marqueterie actually? Marqueterie is an art, an applied art, the origins of which are very ancient. But it did come to a climax during the Renaissance in Italy, to such a point that most landscapes of the period, the 15th century, existed first as inlays and then as paintings. What you must know is that marqueterie was not only meant for furniture. Well, there was some non-furniture, but during the Renaissance, furniture was rather scarce. It was mainly meant for wall panelings and church stalls. Do you mean that between the Benchevenis and the 20th century, and even, say, to Georges Vriz, nothing new occurred in marqueterie? No, of course not. Lots of things happened, and of importance. The very important one was the advent of André Chalboul, the ebonist of Louis XIV, who somehow revolutionized marqueterie with a technique that is named after him now and that I use and is still used now in modern marqueterie. But I mean that if marqueterie did actually take its start during the Renaissance, it really culminated in the decorative arts during the 18th century. Well, 17th and 18th century. But then it's a mean of expression that did keep to the decorative arts. So, but a few exceptions, of course. At the turn of the century with Art Nouveau, the advent of the school of Nancy, with Majorelle, with Gallet, who made quite different works and who set a total rupture with the past, and also a little during the Art Deco period with Rodman, always in furniture, there has hardly been any significant creative breakthrough in marqueterie. As an artist, I was rather influenced by the after-war school. I mean the abstracts, and particularly the lyricals. My expression is mainly abstract. As a matter of fact, my masters are the Renaissance masters, the great ones, but the modern ones as well. And one particularly, it's Georges Mathieu. Well, I met Georges Mathieu, who was very keen on our crafts. In collaboration with him, I made a few works from his drafts. It was ever so fascinating, since I had now, how shall I put it, to work out new techniques to render the lyrical aspect of marqueterie, which doesn't exist currently. So you attain an extraordinary virtuosity, and you came to the crucial step leading to the discovery of blur in marqueterie, which sounds so aberrant. Yes, indeed, since the Vriz technique, that some call the sanding through technique. And this is wrong. It's not oversanding. It was a real discovery. Yes, for oversanding is a fault in cabinetry and marqueterie. And one day I thought it might prove interesting to take advantage of this fault and turn it into a quality, and hence a new technique. And to me, this meant an extraordinary opening over a new world in marqueterie. And there, I can't say, I still express myself in marqueterie today, it's because I found this technique. If I hadn't been able to go so far, I'd give up. For 4 years, I worked out the very foundation of this technique. And since then, for the past 10 years or so, I've been improving and perfecting it. I've tried, like every artist does, to take my art and the technique that allows the expression to its prime level, at the very top of the pyramid. Well, I do try. But, well, all in all, I'm not doing too badly. The technique has evolved grandly, of course. It's a very intricate, difficult, and sophisticated technique. And it doesn't allow the craftsman, for all his proficiency, to make use of it if he's not creating. Would you say you have make secrets? No, I don't have any secrets. I think that's a bit out now. No secrets of mine. Besides, I've taught all I knew in my courses, everything of this technique. You know what? Secrets don't mean a thing. It's talent that matters. Hope I've got some. For the past 2 years, I opted to work on a subject altogether figurative, which I called Renaissances with an S, as it's meant to be a kind of renaissance of marqueterie. And to work on this renaissance, I chose Michelangelo's characters in the Sistine Chapel. I also chose Michelangelo's Genesis figures because just after Michelangelo had completed the painting of the ceiling in the Sistine Chapel, some Italian artists in marqueterie tried to reproduce Michelangelo's Prophets and Sibylles for the Cathedral of Todi in Italy. And when facing the difficulty of representing the human features, they gave up the project. And some 5 centuries later, I took up the challenge. And through some 30-odd works, I represented the main characters, for me, that are in this magnificent ceiling in the Sistine Chapel. I have the feeling of going back to the observation of art drawing. I've set back to drawing, as this demands a great lot of drawing, and this is exciting, for I have to observe things again. I'm compelled into becoming a keen observer, very curious. Here I lay the colors.
Là, c'est mes couleurs. Là, je mettrai un peu de vert.
I'm going to put a bit of green.
Il y avait de l'audace dans les...
There's such amazing boldness in Michelangelo's colors, such audacious colors.
Ici, je vais mettre un peu plus de...
Here I put some more red.
De rouge. Un petit peu de vermillon.
Bit of vermilion.
Voilà. Des taches.
Just blobs.
En fait, cette partie-là sera...
This part will be very, very lyrical.
Voilà. Voilà. C'est bon, on va prendre un petit peu de bleu.
Little blue.
Après le croquis définitif,
After the final draft, I make a technical tracing that I will use as a template for cutting.
Oui, alors ici, ce calque, donc...
I'll use this tracing by transparency to select the veneers I need to make this panel. For instance, this is a piece of pear wood for the flesh, the face, the arms, and so on. The veneers I use are from varied origins and very often very rare.
palissandre du Brésil,
Brazilian rosewood,
padouk d'Afrique,
African paddock,
ronce d'acajou,
mahogany crotch,
loupe de frêne,
ash burr,
loupe de noyer,
walnut burr,
frêne ondé.
fieldback ash, stained bird's eye maple. Now this is the cutting stage of the marqueterie. Every piece that will be part of the marqueterie is cut separately with a saw, a jigsaw. Obtain the shading by dipping the veneers in very hot sand. This technique dates back to the 18th century. You can see here shaded parts that bring out the frame and the sinews. The sinews you can see here. This is not a new way of processing, using protections that I make myself for the shading of the materials. It's not much used in traditional marqueterie today. Now I lay the pattern with hot glue, bone glue, glue that cabinet makers have always used. I put some glue and will then assemble all the pieces of the puzzle, nice and tight, together. Now place the nails. Have to place them well. I'm proceeding with this one. That's where a thin cut line is very important. You avoid blanks and holes. Now, when the picture is all together assembled on craft paper, it will then be laid on the final ground. We step now into a completely new phase of the marqueterie. For traditionally, the marqueterie itself is veneered on a wood panel or on the ground in solid wood, or whatsoever. Whereas here, the Vriz technique, since it was named after me, consists in priming a ground before laying the marqueterie and processing this ground afterwards. So now I'm priming my ground. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to take sawdust that I prepared myself. Here it's blue, for I need blue wood powder. I'll mix it and make a paste with glue. Make a paste, and we'll use it as if it were painting, you see? So I'm preparing my ground. And once the sawdust is dry, I lay my marqueterie. Nowadays, with materials that are available and that are amazing, we have very thin cut veneers, we have glues that allow so much more flexibility in our work. Today, you can express yourself in marqueterie in a most complete, creative way. And that's what I've been up to for the past 30 years or so. See, I'm soaking it now. I take all the paper off. See the arm I shaded a little while ago? Here it is. It's by sanding that I will more or less bring out the grounds. The stage of interpretation is essential for me. The process doesn't take much time. Put some more water, just to see how it is. My very contribution is the light. See this brilliance here? It can only exist because I added a particular material. And here too, this figure in the shade, this is Solomon, and this is certainly his father. Here we have a figure completely set in the shade, and this effect can only be obtained through my technique. That is, by sanding the veneer and scraping it, I bring out what's underneath. You see, I get something blurred in the background, dimmed in the shade, whereas you can't get it in traditional marqueterie. And here this beam of light is something you can't get with traditional marqueterie, but you can obtain it with my technique. And this is what's missing. Well, rather what my addition to marqueterie is, the light I put in my works.